Today we're looking at the sources covering the, frankly, extraordinary career of a Japanese racehorse named Durandal. And this isn't just a sports recap for you guys.
No, not at all.
This is a study in what happens when you take a perceived fatal flaw and just build an entirely new paradigm around it. We're going to get into the genetics, the physics, and really the sheer force of will that went into one of the most unique careers in racing history.
Yeah, and to understand what made him so unique, you kind of only have to look at his name. So Durandal was the legendary sword of Roland in French epic poetry.
Right, the unbreakable sword.
Exactly. It was a blade that was reputed to be totally unbreakable, supposedly capable of cutting through solid stone with just a single devastating strike.
Wow.
And as we look at how this horse actually ran his races, you'll see that the owners didn't just pick a cool-sounding name. I mean, it was a literal description of his biomechanics.
That's wild. So let's actually get into those mechanics by looking at where he came from. He was foaled in 1999, and looking at the breeding records here, it reads like absolute racing royalty.
Oh yeah, impeccable pedigree.
His sire was Sunday Silence, and his mother was Sawayaka Princess, who was sired by Northern Taste. So these are two of the foundational pillars of the legendary Shodai farm.
So the raw material's there, but the biology just clashes.
That biological clash was like immediately apparent with Durandal, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because he managed to win his debut race, but his body almost instantly betrayed him. He developed these severe leg problems that required a massive layoff.
Huge setback.
He ended up missing the crucial 2-year-old Grade 1 races, and he completely missed the Classic season. And even when his legs finally healed enough for him to return, he really struggled. Like, he slowly climbed into open company, but he just couldn't make a dent in the graded races. Early in 2003, he finished a dismal 9th in the Nakayama Kinnan.
Which is not what you want to see from racing royalty.
Not at all. So if his body couldn't handle the traditional path to success, who makes the call to just completely blow up the playbook?
Well, that decision fell to a 24-year-old jockey named Kenichi Ikezawa.
Only 24.
Yeah, super young. But Ikezawa took over the reins after Durandal returned, and he immediately felt that paradox we were just talking about. He realized the horse had a massive cardiovascular engine and unbelievable acceleration, but that Sunday Silence temperament made him incredibly difficult to control.
He just wanted to go.
Exactly. Durandal had this burning desire to just go all out all the time.
So Ikezawa goes to the stable and suggests dropping him down in distance. He wants to enter Durandal in the 1,200-meter sprinter stakes.
He looked at Durandal and realized you simply cannot fight the horse's combative nature. If Durandal refuses to settle down in the slow-paced race because he wants to run fast, what happens if we put him in a race where the pace is blistering right out of the gate?
Oh, so the environment matches his internal tempo.
Exactly. Because the rest of the pack is sprinting so incredibly hard from the second the gates open, Durandal suddenly doesn't feel restrained. The frantic pace of the 1,200-meter race naturally forces him to relax.
That's brilliant.
Right. He falls to the back of the pack, not because he's slow, but because he's finally comfortable. His difficult temperament is completely neutralized by the chaos around him.
And that allows him to conserve all of that explosive anaerobic energy while the leaders are exhausting themselves fighting for position. That is just a masterstroke of sports psychology. And they tested this theory, right? He secured a really promising third-place finish in the Centaur Stakes. But the ultimate proof of concept was the 2003 Sprinter Stakes, which is Japan's premier sprint event.
Oh, absolutely.
And he was up against a genuinely outstanding mare named Believe.
Believe was incredible. She was a tactical, front-running powerhouse. Basically, she was exactly the kind of horse that makes a closer's job impossible.
And the sources described this race so vividly, like the gates open and it's just an absolute blur of speed. Believes executes her race perfectly. She hits the front with only 200 meters remaining.
Which usually means game over.
Right. In a sprint of this caliber, when a horse like Believe takes the lead that late, the math says the race is done. The crowd is watching her. But then, from the absolute rear of the field, way out on the outside where there's no traffic, Durandal appears.
Like a dark shadow. He had spent the first 1,000 meters just waiting.
Yes. He unleashes this acceleration that almost looks like a camera trick. Stride after stride, he is literally erasing what should be an insurmountable spatial deficit. And right on the finish line, he catches Believe to win his first Grade 1 title.
It completely validated everything Ikezawa suspected. It really was that single, devastating strike from the clouds, just like the sword he was named after.
The racing world was stunned. But naturally, there were massive doubts. People thought it was a fluke, or maybe the pace just happened to collapse perfectly for him that one specific day.
Sure, you always have skeptics.
So to prove it wasn't a parlor trick, the stable doubled down. They targeted the 1,600-meter-mile championship next.
Which is a massive risk, by the way.
Really? Why?
Well, asking a horse to sustain that kind of explosive, fast-twitch acceleration over 1,600 meters instead of 1,200 stretches the absolute limits of equine physiology.
Oh, wow. But his performance was identical. Patient, relaxed, sitting dead last. And then a total explosion on the outside to sweep past the entire field and capture his second Grade 1 victory back-to-back.
And after that, he was officially named Best Sprinter of the Year, cementing his status.
We move into his 5-year-old season in 2004, starting with the Takamatsu no Miyakinen, where he finishes second to Sunnydale. And immediately after that, he suffers a severe hoof crack. He recovers in time for the autumn, aiming for the 2004 Sprinter Stakes again. But this time, standing in his way is Calstone Light O.
Who the sources note was the fastest horse in Japanese racing history.
Right, so the clash of titans, the race plays out. Calstone Light O blasts into the lead. Durandal waits at the back. He launches his magnificent finishing kick, but he loses. Calstone Light O holds on, and Durandal takes second.
Yeah, he just couldn't catch him.
So, what does this all mean? If Durandal's closing kick is unbeatable, and he's visibly running faster at the end of the race, how does he lose? What broke down here?
Well, it comes down to the inescapable laws of geometry and time. When a closer gives away that much ground early on, they're essentially betting that their top speed, multiplied by the time remaining, will cover more distance than the leader's fading speed.
Okay, that makes sense.
But Calstone Light O wasn't a normal horse. He wasn't fading. If the front runner maintains a high enough velocity through the final stretch, the closer simply runs out of racetrack.
Oh.
Yeah, even if Durandal is moving, say, 5 miles an hour faster than Calstone Light O, he cannot physically close a 15-length gap before the finish line arrives. Physics dictates he needs more distance to catch a front runner who refuses to slow down.
So the unbreakable sword couldn't cut through space and time.
Basically, yeah.
But what makes champions fascinating isn't that they never lose, it's how they bounce back. Just weeks later, Durandal lines up for the mile championship again. He uses the exact same strategy, drops to the back, waits, and unleashes absolute hell on the final stretch to win.
Redemption.
Huge redemption. He becomes the first horse in history to win the mile championship in consecutive years.
And that proved that the loss to Calstone Light O wasn't a flaw in the strategy, right? It was just a matter of running into a historically great performance by an opponent. Durandal's method was still fundamentally sound.
Which leads the owners to aim for the ultimate test, the Hong Kong Mile. And this is where we really enter the darkest hour of the story. The conditions in Hong Kong were completely against him. Heavy watering left the turf incredibly soft.
Which is the worst possible scenario for a closer.
Really? Why is that worse for him than the others?
Think of it like trying to sprint in wet sand instead of on a firm rubber running track.
Right.
When you need to generate maximum acceleration in a tiny window of time, you need a firm surface to push off against so that none of your kinetic energy is lost. Soft turf just absorbs all of that downward force.
So he just spins his wheels?
Pretty much.
He ends up finishing 5th. But honestly, the loss in Hong Kong was barely a footnote compared to what happened next. After returning to Japan, his hoof problems worsened dramatically, and he was diagnosed with laminitis.
It is agonizingly painful. For a racehorse whose entire athletic existence relies on concentrating massive force onto those hooves, it's almost always an outright career ender. Retirement is the logical choice, and euthanasia is frequently discussed when the rotation is severe.
But thanks to this extraordinary veterinary care, he survived. And he didn't just survive to live out his days in a pasture. Against all medical logic, he returned to the track for the 2005 Sprinter Stakes.
It's unbelievable.
And waiting for him was Silent Witness, the unbeaten sprint king from Hong Kong. Here's where it gets really interesting. The gates open. Durandal, coming off a potentially lethal foot disease, drops to the back, and then he launches a charge that practically defies biology.
Oh, the numbers on this race are staggering.
Our sources highlight this mind-bending statistic. Durandal ran the final 600 meters of that race in exactly 32.7 seconds.
Just to contextualize that for you, 600 meters is roughly 3 furlongs. Covering that ground in 32.7 seconds means he was sustaining speeds of around 41 miles per hour at the absolute end of a race.
That is insane.
To generate that kind of fast-twitch muscle explosion on a foot that had recently suffered laminitis is well, it's almost incomprehensible.
He was literally flying. But Silent Witness was just too good, and he held on. Durandal finished second, but it universally goes down as one of the most magnificent losing performances ever seen on a racetrack. He pushed an unbeaten international legend to the absolute limit.
He really did. He made one final attempt at a third consecutive mile championship later that year, but his body had finally just had enough. He finished 8th, and his career came to a close.
He completely rewrote the conventional wisdom of sprint racing. Normally, a horse with that kind of resume goes on to dominate the breeding shed, but his legacy there was a bit more complicated, wasn't it?
It was. He stood at Shedai Stallion Station and later the Breeders' Stallion Station, and while he sired some solid runners, including the Japanese Oaks winner Aaron Court, he never established a major enduring sire line.
But, his bloodline isn't really his true legacy. The emotional core of this story is found in his relationship with the humans around him, particularly Kenichi Ikazo, the jockey who saw his potential when everyone else just saw a liability.
Absolutely. Ikazo openly stated that no horse shaped his career quite like Durandal did.
I love this detail from the sources. He actually kept a photo of the horse as his phone wallpaper for years.
Yeah, and sadly, Durandal suffered a fatal heart attack in his stall on July 7th, 2013. He was only 14 years old. But Ikazoa continued to visit his grave regularly for years after.
That really speaks volumes about the profound bond between the athlete and the animal who trusted him. It wasn't about the bloodline he left behind. It was about the impossible standard he set for the sport.
Exactly. He proved that even when you give away an impossible amount of ground, a truly extraordinary, patient finish can overcome pretty much everything.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.